Hello and welcome to ORH Hatter. I'm Finlay Cannon and I'm joined by Adam Driscoll as normal. And Jamie Castle is finally back. First of all, how are we doing, Adam?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. I'm again positive. This is getting out of hand. This craziness of jumping on a podcast and being positive. So yeah, I'm good. I'm again anxious towards the weekend, but what a win, and we've put it back in our own hands, and I think that's all that any of us could have asked for going into the last game. So yeah, good stuff.
And welcome back, Jamie. It's been a while since we last saw you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. It's things have changed since my last appearance. For me, I'm doing a flat move and work and other stuff going on. It's been pretty hectic. But yeah, I mean, on the Luton front, it's all roses at the minute. So yeah, a lot easier pod to record than it was about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, as we've all alluded to there, we're coming into this pod off the back of another win. That's 3 in a row now, and something at the start of the season I don't think anyone would have thought of. So it's looking good for Luton after what was, despite the fact it was only a 1-0 win and it was a late win, it was a pretty dominant performance against Coventry, albeit they were down to 10 men for most of the game, actually. And we're going to talk all about that. But before that, don't forget to check us out on social media. That's at ORH Hatter on all of your social media platforms. And you can see the latest content as it comes out. And we're going to talk about that straight away because, as we spoke about before, Adam, we looked at this game and we thought this is massive. It's an early kickoff. We've got the potential to set the pace before the other teams start playing. And, well, you looked at it early on and Luton flew out the box.
Yeah, we did speak about the kind of the size of the game and the opportunity that we had, and I don't think I predicted or either of us predicted quite the drama and the intensity of the game, but yeah, it was quite a roller coaster of a game, and we did, we came flying out the blocks. Generally, I think we had to, and we alluded to that we had to come out, set the tone, like get in the game, and obviously make sure the ball's in their half, and we did that really well. And even before the first talking point that we'll come on to, I thought we set the tone pretty well. So yeah, it was good to see, and obviously what followed as a result of incident number one meant that we could we could sort of stay on that momentum as well. So it was massively important for us to get that kind of foothold in midfield. And fair play to the guys that were there, to Fanny and Asgard and Walsh for doing that.
Yeah, it was straight on top of Coventry from the off, and as you mentioned there, it was Fanny and Walsh getting on top of them, and then it was Ali who got in behind and looked to be going in on goal and was clipped by Jay De Silva, one of the De Silva brothers who sort of broke through at Luton originally in their careers, albeit not really in the first team. I would say at the time it looked like it was a sending off, and it's difficult to tell on the replay because he is the last man and he is denying a goal scoring opportunity, but it doesn't look like there's that much contact there, Jamie.
This is one of those debates where it's modern football versus football of the 80s, right? And I'm sure that will probably be the big divide between what your view is. Not loads of contact, but there still is contact. I think that probably is undeniable that there is some contact. And I think if you were to get into the realm of, oh, it's an accident, or oh, there's not a lot of contact, then I think you're in danger of allowing players to sort of make minor contact and try and take out the last man, and then get away with a sort of a foul, which is a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. I think just sort of having the bar where it allows room for accident, or allows room for slight contact to bring a man down in that situation, I think can probably play into sort of dangerous hands where a centre half could knowingly have light contact, knowing that he's the last man through on goal, just because he knows that wouldn't be the bar for the red cards. And I think a few years ago that they sort of brought in this whole dog so as you call it situation where I think that's fair, where I think it should be based on the circumstance of the foul, which is he's through on goal, no covering defender, 1-on-1, you back the player to score. I think that's a good situation. Whereas look, if you had Louis Binks, for example, as the covering defender and he would have got there, then fine, absolutely not a red, because there becomes a scenario where the ball could have been stopped, for example. So I think again, I think with the biased orange glasses on, I'm comfortable that whilst you could probably feel aggrieved if you're Coventry and if you're Jada Silva, I think it's one of those that is probably for me more on the side of red than it is yellow. Um, Whereas I think coming on to the Liam Walsh one later, I think for me that's really harsh, even if he knows what he's doing, etc. So yeah, I think for me there's a clear difference between the Luton one and the Coventry one.
Yeah, it's a decision that I think for both sides would be differing opinions. You could understand why Coventry would be unhappy with it, but he was the last man, and Ali did end up going to ground and was unable to go on through on goal as a result. I can't remember the last time we actually had a red card for the visiting team at Kenilworth Road. You can remember back to when we played Wolves in the Premier League. It was quite vocal then when one of their players got sent off, and it's always quite entertaining at Kenilworth Road when a player gets sent off because of the walk they have to do. But it was after that point, Adam, we were all over Coventry. We had them pinned into their box. They obviously had to make a change and bring on another defender to replace Jada Silva. So Bidwell came on and they had to take off Sakamoto. And it was really for them backs against the wall.
Yeah, it was mad, wasn't it? Like I saw one of those like momentum maps for basically like from that point to the end of the first half, and just all Luton. It was ridiculous. I think the ball came into our half twice. I think Kaminsky alluded to the fact that you had pretty much nothing to do. So, but it was one of those. Playing against 10 is always a lot harder, isn't it? Because everyone's sort of behind the ball. You're struggling to find that space to make that sort of like killer pass, if you like. And yeah, I think with us, we're not always the best team when we've got time on the ball. I think we're quite good as a counter attacking team. But we had a lot of time and we had limited space, and it looked like sort of we were sort of getting a little bit slower as the game progressed in terms of trying to make that killer pass. But yeah, I mean, for Coventry, I think at that point in the game, they're thinking if we can get out of here with a point, it's still somewhat in their hands. I think they played Middlesbrough on Saturday last game, so that was obviously their game plan. But equally, I was sitting there going, well, if we score, then they've got to ditch that game plan, and they've really got to come out and open up and try and get back in the game, even with 10. So I was sort of sitting there desperate for us to make that breakthrough. And obviously it didn't quite pan out that way before things sort of leveled themselves up. So it's a tough one. But going back to the red card and the goal scoring opportunity, I think if it's me, I prefer Ali to get away and put it away, and you go 1-0 up 11v11. I always think there's a bit of a false dawn with a team going down to 10 and kind of what you expect from the rest of the game, but just it's so much harder to make that breakthrough. But yeah, clearly at the end of the day, it's not mattered too much in that sense. So we can't complain too much.
Yeah, you mentioned there it can sometimes be hard to play 11 against 10 just because quite often teams will sit in, and we certainly saw that as we've mentioned. If you look at the stats from that first half, we had 11 shots and they had one, and their one shot didn't come until the 44th minute, and it was from outside the box as well. So, yeah, it was fair to say we completely dominated the ball and the shots in the first half, but we were unable to make it count despite a few very good chances from some players in that Luton side, Jamie.
Yeah, and I think pre and post the red card, I thought the performance was the same. So there's none of this talk for me that it was because of the red card. I think absolutely not. I think before we were also awesome. I thought Walsh and Asgard in particular in that midfield bossed it, and that's saying something given the strength they've got in there with Matt Grimes, Ben Sheaf, Jack Rodoni. Like that, there's some top level championship midfielders, and not just players that are sort of new on the block and look really technically gifted, but players that are experienced at this level. I mean, I would imagine Ben Sheaf's now at 100 plus appearances at the championship. And I would imagine Matt Grimes is in the 250, 300 appearances ballpark, and that's just me guessing. But that's the level of experience that those players have. So for Walsh and Asgard to boss that midfield like that, I think. I mean, Fane, I think still growing into that role. I think still looks a bit raw and is still prone to a mistake or two, but can certainly see what he can hopefully offer for us going forward, which is really good. Carlton Morse is improving. I think it's been a very tough season for him. What was it, 18 games without a goal leading into the Bristol City game. I think he's led the line a lot better, certainly in those last two home games that we've seen, and even Derby. I thought he was decent. So it's pleasing to see him get back to not his best, because his best was awesome for us sort of 2 or 3 years ago now, but he's getting there. And then Ali, I think it's a weird one with Ali, because I think Ali's best performances for us have actually come at left wing back. If you look at that Stoke game where he came on he came on after 25, 30 minutes and was on for an hour at left wing back, and I don't think he's quite made that second striker role his own just yet, but we certainly do sort of enjoy the pace that he offers down that sort of left hand side sometimes. So yeah, I think the way that the structure of the team is looking right now is really good. And I mean, like Adam was talking about at the top of the show about a bit of anxious on Saturday, but I actually think the way we're playing, I'm quite calm and quite comfortable, and not to say we're back in that period, because we're far off it where we were 20 odd games unbeaten in League One and you just go into the weekend expecting to win. Obviously we're not at that level just yet, but the way the players have been playing, certainly in those two home games, and then our away form has been pretty good. I think we're 4 games without defeat now away from home, and looking really comfortable defensively. McGuinness and Bow and Mengi in that back three are looking pretty good, and then we've got Mikoso as well. So yeah, I think all in all, I think the structure of the team now is providing a bit of calmness to me right now. And obviously, I think when that whistle goes on Saturday at 12:30, there'll be a bit of anxiety, because I know what the consequences could be if it doesn't quite go our way. But I think all in all, I'm pretty comfortable with the way the team are playing right now.
Yeah, you mentioned you're comfortable with the way we're playing, and we looked very, very comfortable in the game, controlling the ball completely, up until the point where, as we've sort of touched on, Walsh got what is his 3rd red card of the season. And for a player that's never been sent off in his career, that is just crazy that he's been sent off 3 times in one season. And it did change the way the game sort of played out in front of us. But let's talk a bit about that red card, because Walsh has been, since that last red card he got, he's been probably one of our best 2 or 3 players since he came back into the side and really settled down. He's been consistently very good at moving the ball, controlling possession. And he was doing that again on Saturday up until he got sent off. And it was a pretty suspect decision. It looked like what happened was Jones was taken out on the ball, and then all the players sort of came together and he pushed a player away. It was one of the centre-backs, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was
And
Binks.
Walsh is a very short player, and the centre-back went down holding his face as if he'd been pushed in the face. And when you look at it, Walsh got nowhere near his face. And I actually don't think he could have reached his face if he'd tried.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, on Walsh, so clearly anyone that's been listening to us all season will know that I've I've slated him a lot. I've not been a massive fan at all, and I think even he would recognise that he let us down on occasions with previous red cards. But what I will say is that the last sort of 5, 6, 7 weeks, he's shown the player that he can be, and I think he's been really quite pivotal in our midfield. So just want to say that, because as much as we criticise players, and we have done through most of the season, there's always a time to praise them as well. So he certainly redeemed himself in that sense. In terms of the red card on Saturday, it's never a red card. It's it's an unfortunate event because he's pushed this guy in the chest. The guy's gone down holding his face, fallen back into Morris, which makes it look a lot more sort of like dramatic, the whole sequence of events. And the referee's not even had to think about it. He's just gone, oh well, I can see this Coventry player on the floor. I know who it is. I'm just going to pull a red card out. Like, it doesn't make any sense how quickly the referee made that decision, because he's clearly not seen what he thinks he's seen. And if you're not sure, go and speak to your linesman, because you're over that sort of side of the pitch. The linesman probably has got a reasonable view, or can certainly give a second opinion. So I thought it was a pretty poor and obviously a quick decision from the referee. I would expect us to appeal it, because it's been a straight red, and by all accounts the club can appeal it, as opposed to it being a second yellow. So I would expect an appeal to go in, and I would expect it to be overturned. But that obviously means dealing with the authorities, and they come out with some crazy answers to things, don't they? So I don't think we can take it as a given. But I'd be very surprised if it's not overturned and he's not available for the weekend coming. And I think for me, like, it's crucial that he plays, because you don't want to change too much if you can avoid it. He's also a player that gets his foot on the ball, and if you're in a scenario where you need to be getting something out of the game, we're going to need to have a foot on the ball as well in the West Brom game. So I do hope that it's overturned, and that he can carry on and finish the season showing us the player that he really can be as well.
Yeah, I think on that, I think Bloomfield said in his post match he's going to appeal it, so I fully expect that will get some sort of appeal underway. I think on the actual incident itself, the reason why I'm actually quite pleased in hindsight, given the fact that we won and got 3 points, was that it probably may have been a yellow card, because it's sort of it's one of those two-handed pushes that you don't really need to do. And I think that's why I can see why people say that Walsh is being silly, because look, your bits, don't get involved. So that's I guess the negative towards Walsh. But then on the Coventry player, I mean the Cov players were like it all game, right? And that's why I have no sympathy towards Coventry and Lampard crying in his press conference that he thinks that Izzy Jones should have been sent off for the kick out on, don't know who it was on the left. Was it Bidwell maybe on the left? Like, come on, Frank. You had your players playing like 5-year-olds all game. The amount of times in the first half your players chucked the ball into the away ends, but that they should have individually all been bookings for wasting time. So not having any of that. But I'm quite pleased that it was given as a straight red, because it probably could have been a second yellow, and the fact that it was a straight red means that we can appeal it. So I'm hoping that it works in our favour. And yeah, I think Adam's quite right. Liam Walsh, certainly in the last 2 games, has been incredible for us, and for all of the slating that we gave him early in the season. It's quite right that we praise him in based on his performances for the last 2 home games in particular. So yeah, I hope I'm hoping that we appeal it gets overturned, and he can start at West Brom.
When we've seen Walsh be sent off a couple of times before this season, earlier this season, he's obviously been met with a pretty hostile reception as he's had to walk away and walk down the tunnel. Obviously, Oxford, most notably, probably because it was so quickly. But this time he was actually applauded off the pitch, which was, I guess, in a way, shows how far he's come, Adam. It's really shown the sort of the bounce back he's had in his Luton Town career.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't applauding him off the pitch at the time. I was pretty furious the fact that he'd done anything to balance the game, and I probably would have been the same for anybody, any of our players that did anything to result in 10v10, because you saw the next sort of 10 minutes and how Coventry got their backs up, and it changed the game really, in terms of expectations from both teams. But look, I'm not going to be harsh on him. I think he didn't need to do it, but it's ended out all right for us, hasn't it? Like it's not turned out um, in a scenario where like we're done, or we need to absolutely 100% need to win on the last game. I think as I said, it's not a red card. He doesn't need to do it. I think his performances in recent weeks have given him a little bit of leeway for what happened on Saturday. So yeah, I'm certainly not gonna berate him in the same way that I've done in the other two red cards that we've seen this season as well.
Yeah, he certainly gave himself a little bit of leeway with his own redemption this season. And it was that red card that led to the redemption for another player, because after he was sent off, we reacted to obviously having one less midfielder on the pitch. We'd already made changes. Um, and Baptiste came on for Bell about probably 10 minutes later. And he's a player that the last time we saw him before the last couple of games was when he was coming on at Watford and then going off injured in the same game and getting booed off the pitch with an injury, which um, you can only imagine how that must feel as a player being booed off because of injury, which is something that's not your fault. But just the sheer frustration from Luton fans that he's come in and all we've seen is him get injured. But it was him who came on, and we couldn't break down Coventry all game. We had two really good chances in the second half. I think one was Fane and the other was Ali. It might have actually been both been Fane. It looks like they'd both gone in from where I was stood, and people have started celebrating, only to realise they'd gone just wide. But it was Baptiste late on, after we've been under a lot of sustained pressure from Coventry after that red card for Walsh, and it was him who gave us the win in the 90th minute. And I wouldn't call it a rocket of a shot, Jamie.
No. I mean, I think first of all, on the whole Baptiste stuff that you mentioned, I think it's obviously been amplified by the fact that he was the so-called replacement for both Barkley and Lukonga, which clearly isn't the easiest sort of steps to walk in. And I think B, just generally, because the recruitment wasn't overly great from the summer. I think there was a lot of reliance on someone like a Baptiste being good for us, and the fact that we had almost wasted that spot on someone that comes on in one game and then goes off 10 minutes later because of injury. It quite rightly gets some fans' backs up, and he's been, I guess, the target of that, rightly or wrongly. But it's done now. I think in terms of him as a player, we all know the ability that he has, and probably adds to it, because we know that when he's fit and if he was up to full speed, he could have been an excellent player for us. But it obviously hasn't panned out that way. Um, but then saying that goal alone could be worth the whole season's worth of wages that he's earned through not doing a lot, right? I think it's £8 million between League One and Championship. So if that goal is the goal that seals it or saves us, then thank you, Shona Baptiste. I think people have likened it to sort of the Cal Naismith goal against Bournemouth to make it 3-2, which obviously in its own right was excellent. Not quite the nice finish that Naismith had, but yeah, ultimately the important thing is it went in the back of the net. When the ball went clear to Baptiste, and he almost seemed to shank it. I honestly thought he missed it. I'm not sure about you, Adam, because you sit in a similar area to me. From where I looked at it, I just thought, my immediate reaction was like, oh, for God's sake, he's missed this. But then, yeah, thankfully, Louis Binks turns it into his own net, and there's probably a few meme-worthy bits of content there with regards to both. Um, Louis Binks falling into his own post and then looking back is just, yeah, it's one of those cartoon type moments that I'm sure you can make it into. So yeah, all in all, a very positive end to what was a positive game and performance.
Yeah, I was obviously not I had a fairly good angle as well down the front on that, and even on the videos I've watched back, like I think it's going wide of the left hand post. I'm not convinced it's actually going on target, but yeah, Binks was a donkey all game. To be fair, like I don't know what Coventry fans think of him, but he was just terrible, and he should have been booked for a tackle or a high tackle on Walsh in the first half. I think he ended up getting booked later in the game, but that should have been his second yellow. Um, was he the same guy that the keeper flattened and on his way down, or was that Kitching? Because one of them got flattened by the keeper and went down holding their arms towards the referee as if to say, "I've been fouled." And you're like, "Well, it's your keeper, mate. He's just come out and clattered you from behind." It might have been Kitching, but I don't quite know how Binks has managed to finish that the way he has as well. Because if he even misses it, as I say, I think it goes beyond the left hand post, or he gets a good enough foot on it to boot it into the David Priest or something. But somehow he's like probably our best finish of the season, bar Clark at Cardiff. He's managed to turn it into his own net. So thank you very much for that.
And the reaction that led to, the celebration that led to, was up there with some of the best celebrations I've seen at Kenilworth Road in a very, very long time. I think the word limbs would be an understatement for the goal celebration in Kenilworth Road as that went in the 90th minute, Jamie.
Yeah, incredible. And I mean, I've not been well for the past week, so my voice wasn't as strong as it normally is anyway. But I think I fully lost it come the end of the game. That was yeah, we've not had many moments like that this season, so I think that probably amplified it even more, right? Because it's been such a long time since we've had that sort of outcome in a game. So yeah, we will talk about it, but probably what two seasons to go now at the Kenny. So there won't be that many more of those, or hopefully there will be, because hopefully we'll have quite a few goals and last minute winners in important games like that to come. Because if we do, then hopefully that means we're going somewhere. But yeah, it's special moments to sort of to keep with you going into power court for sure.
And that celebration was repeated when the full time whistle finally went after what felt like the longest few minutes of additional time we've had all season, Adam. It just seemed to go on forever.
Yeah, it always does, doesn't it? You're in the lead or you get a last minute goal. And we spoke ironically on the last pod about how Luton always concede within a few minutes of scoring, and that would have been ridiculously deflating had that been the case, and we come out with a point. You just feel every kick in the last few minutes, don't you? I think there was a delay as well in terms of like how many minutes we were playing. There was a load in the first half. You're obviously expecting quite a lot in the second half, given how stop start the game was with incidents. So you know it's going to be a decent amount of time. But I thought we did pretty well, to be honest. But I don't think there was really any clear cut opportunities. I think that Coventry had a corner um, on the right hand side of the Oak Road end as we look. Um, Other than that, I don't really think we had a huge amount of threat. But every time the ball went into Kaminsky's hands, you just sort of felt this massive relief and obviously referee didn't seem to play too many seconds beyond the minutes. So yeah, sheer relief. I'm probably the second biggest noise at Kenilworth Road this season. I would say, bar that goal from Baptiste.
And just I guess to end in between that was when TK sort of came up, caught the ball, held it in his arms, and went down. Or I think it was on the 96th minute on the dot after it was +6 added, and the whole stadium started chanting his name, which was obviously special given the week that he he's gone through this past week. So obviously our thoughts are with him and his family. A tough week, but a huge thank you for putting through and starting and I mean again you didn't really have to do much, but just providing some assurance in that back line. A clean sheet is well deserved, and one more to go, Thomas, and we'll probably stay up. So fingers crossed.
And we'll just touch on that very briefly because Bloomfield obviously explained that he'd actually gone out to Brussels to accompany Kaminsky back. And I think that says a lot about him as a person and how much the players mean to him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not a far right, but just the thought to get a Eurostar out to Brussels to go and sort of meet up with to Thomas and then say hello to his mum, and I'm not sure if he's got brothers or sisters, but I'm sure any siblings he had was there as well, just to accompany him back because again it's not far, but a 2 hour train ride on your own after you've gone through what you've gone through can probably be a dark place. I've not experienced it, but I can only imagine it is a pretty dark place to go through. So just having that sort of that company on the train back to keep them in fairly positive spirits, etc., going into the weekend. It's those small things that mean a lot compared to sort of it's just a quick train ride out to Brussels. So it's similar to Edwards. He's the sort of man that you sort of don't really want to hate really. So I'm hoping he can keep us up and going into next season because I think on Bloomfield he's not got the credit he's deserved in my opinion in terms of certainly in the last 6 to 8 weeks. I think he's got us playing some really good stuff and some really exciting stuff, and it was a hard watch at times from January to sort of the end of February. I think there was performances there that probably deserved more, but it was a struggle given what had predated it under Edwards. But he's really got us playing now, and really excited if we can stay up just to see the sort of team we can put together.
We're going to go to a quick break now, but when we get back, we'll be talking about the other results that went our way on Saturday. Hello and welcome back to Oak Road Hatter. I'm still joined by Jamie Castle and Adam Driscoll. And as we mentioned before, we're going to look at some of the other results that happened on Saturday because obviously we were the early kickoff, which had its pluses and its minuses because it meant that we could get our game out of the way early, but it also meant other teams knew what they needed to catch up with us. And obviously winning that game took us out of the relegation zone. And the big game really for us was Hull against Derby, which before the game, I think a lot of us were thinking probably a draw or a Hull win. But in the end, it actually went Derby's way and it was a 1-0 win. And it was another late goal in that game, Adam.
Yeah, and that is just the championship, isn't it? Like you think or expect something, and the complete opposite happens. I think it's one of those like there's I think coming out of the ground after we finished, there was a real kind of split opinion on what we needed from that game. Um, my thoughts were alongside yours in terms of if Hull were to win, then we'd be 3 clear of Derby going into the last game, which means they had to then go and beat Stoke. Stoke themselves lost on Friday night, and they are well in the mix now as well. Particularly, I think had we not won, they were safe. But obviously, we then did win, so that's another team you throw into the mix, and all of a sudden, Derby versus Stoke was looking particularly juicy. So yeah, I mean that's obviously gone Derby's way, and it's propelled them. I think they're about 18th now, something. Yeah, 19th. So again, they're still in the mix clearly, but the biggest thing for us was getting that win. So we'll see kind of how that all pans out on the final day. And then the other ones we were focused on was obviously us winning as well meant Plymouth were essentially down, bar a huge goal difference swing. So again, just goes to show that doing our job early in the day has had a positive impact for us there. And then obviously Cardiff can't get a goal and beat West Brom, and they're officially down. Plymouth are all but down, and then we're left with one space between quite a few teams in what is going to be a very mental final day. I'm hoping for our sake it's going to be ridiculously straightforward, in that, as an example, like, my mindset going into that is we need to equal or better what Hull do. Like, I know there's other sort of permutations as well, but my hope is that Portsmouth go 2-0 up very early on, uh, or 3-0 up, whatever they want to do, but just go ahead in the game comfortably, and it doesn't really then matter what we do. Um, as we know, the Championship probably won't throw it up that way. You'll probably see Hull taking an early lead and everybody going to West Brom biting their fingernails off. So look, I'm praying for a straightforward final day, but I suspect there's going to be a few twists and turns.
Yeah, it wouldn't really be the Championship if it was straightforward. As you mentioned there's a lot of teams that are still affected. So I'm just going to run through the teams that could still go down in that 22nd place or even in 23rd, because whilst Plymouth look all but relegated, they could still not finish. They're not finished. They could still not finish second bottom or bottom. They could end up finishing third bottom or even outside of the relegation zone. If there was a significant goal swing, and it would have to be really significant, sort of unheard of goal swing. So we'll just run through that quickly. So I'm going to start at 18th because Oxford United are safe now. So 18th, Stoke on 50 points. 19th, Derby on 49 points. 20th, Preston on 49 points. 21st is us on 49 points. 22nd is Hull on 48 points. And Plymouth are 23rd with 46 points. And actually, you didn't mention it there, but Plymouth have done us a massive favour by getting a surprising away win at Preston, because it drags Preston into it. If Preston had won that game, they would have been safe as well. And it now means that they're very much in danger of potentially going down on the final day as well. So, yeah, there's 5 teams there that could finish in 22nd place.
Yeah, and for me, Preston's the one, if I'm being completely honest. That they have been in dire form. I think they've only won one league game since the middle of February. They have to go to Bristol City, who, barring what would be a surprising victory at Leeds on Monday night, would need to win to seal their playoff place. And Bristol City are certainly a home team rather than an away one. I think that their home v away form is pretty stark. So I mean, on paper, and we know that's not how it's played on paper, Preston will lose at Bristol City on Saturday. So then that just basically means that we need to get a point, and given goal difference, so do Hull. And then if that works out, then Preston are down in 22nd. So Preston are probably the team that I fear for the most right now. If I was a neutral fan. And you know what? So be it. I think they're a sort of team that have been 12th in the Championship for too long. And if I'm honest, for their own good, probably need a bit of a League One reset just to sort of galvanise them and go from there. But I'm feeling positive. I think a point will be enough. I think just given the fixtures down there, Hull go to Pompey, Preston go to Bristol City, as I said, and then Derby and Stoke play each other. So that would mean it's either Stoke 52, Derby 49, Stoke 51, Derby 50, or Stoke 50, Derby 52. So, I mean, I think given goal difference, it would be. I think that a point wouldn't be enough in that situation. But who knows if Derby stick 5 past Stoke, then a draw would be enough. So yeah, there's probably 20 plus different permutations that can play out. But as I was saying in the first half, going into Saturday, I'm fairly confident. I think other than Derby, we're probably the form team in that sort of group of 6 or 7 clubs. So yeah, I think if we were neutrals looking at that, I wouldn't say that Luton would be the ones that go down.
Yeah, it's an open relegation battle, and it's actually an open playoff race as well, which is a far cry from what people look at the Premier League now. With obviously all for the for the second season running, all three promoted sides have gone back down, straight back down, and this time they've gone back down even earlier than last season. So I think the Championship is the league to look at not only for the neutrals, but obviously for those fans who've got teams being represented in the division. And Jamie, I know you're going to be at West Brom as will I. I'm sure there'll be a lot of us that'll be looking at our phones quite regularly during that game, trying to get whatever signal we can find to check the other scores. And there could be some rogue celebrations from other games happening.
Yeah, it's always weird when you're in Birmingham cheering some goals on the southwest in terms of Bristol and Portsmouth. It's always a bit of a weird situation. I actually don't like it. I think for the first half, I always tend to put my phone on Do Not Disturb just so I don't get sort of encouraged to look at my phone. Albeit, I'm sure there'll be some satos in the away end or whatever looking at their phones at every 30 seconds. But I think for the first half, at least, I always like to just focus on ourselves, because if we can get a goal and go 1-0 up early, or even better, go 2 up at half time, then that makes that second half a lot more comfortable. So yeah, I think if it was 0-0 going into the second half, that's probably when you start to check your phones at every five or so seconds.
Yeah, well, I'm sure those fans not travelling to West Brom will also be keeping a very close eye on all the scores as they happen, and it is the Championship and it is the final day, so they both come hand in hand with just being pure chaos, really. Adam, I'm sure you'll be glued to Soccer Saturday or whatever it is you watch, just watching the goals go in.
I will be. So we're going to Suffolk at the weekend for like all of next week. So I'm getting the train on Saturday morning, and I get into sort of like Southwold area pretty much 12:30. So I'm going to do my very best to be concentrating on a nice family holiday, as well as not showing the feelings and emotion that are going to come with all my live score notifications across probably 4 games. So it could be an interesting battle for me. I'd probably rather be there like you guys, to be honest, because you know what's going on in front of you at least. It's going to be horrible. So as I say, a couple of early goals in the right places for us, and I'll feel a lot easier, and I'll be settled down into a nice holiday.
Yeah, the good thing is we have put ourselves into a strong position with that win. And that is everything from today's episode. We hope you enjoyed listening as always, and let us know your thoughts about anything we've discussed in the comments or on social media. That's at @OCrowdHatter on all your social media platforms. But from myself, from Jamie and from Adam, thank you very much for listening, and it's just one game to go.